do you think are the biggest problems that Indians face in this relationship context, according to you?
Well, if I have to talk about specifically to do with Indians, but also it does apply globally to some extent. But I think the most important aspect of relationship that's missing out here is open communication in India.
Break it down. Tell me what
So
is
if
open
I talk
communication.
about open communication, to be very precise, here in India, people don't know how to sit together and decide on relationship goals. Okay, so now I'll give you an example. So what happens, suppose if you're staying in New York or you're staying in London and you come into a relationship, but you're not very sure about how do you want to go about it, but you come together, so you're just scrolling through Tinder and you're like, okay, swipe right. Let me just go. I don't know, it's swipe right or swipe left. I don't know. I'm so sorry. I'm very bad with this, but whatever it is, whatever swipe that you do, which says yes, it means somewhere you meet that person and it's a fling. You're very clear about it's a casual relationship.
Nothing of depth.
Yes, we here do not have this culture of casual relationship. If the relationship has to be that, it has to be a die-hard, a deep core relationship. Either you're getting married or you're not getting married. Okay, so there's nothing like a casual relationship. So what happens? I'm talking about a lot of youth today, since they are into trial and error method. They want to get into relationship to see whether this is going to work out or no. So you sit down and decide what are you really looking for? What are your goals in terms of relationships? We are not very okay with the casual ones because a lot of youth don't want to commit to a relationship and they're looking for something very much casual, and people do not appreciate that. So that's one of the things, when your goals are not aligned, that's when one person comes and says that maine to dil diya, but then what happened? You're not committed to me. Tumne to nahi diya.
Haath diya.
So, yeah, whatever that is, but
I'm just mastering my Hindi, guys.
So the point is that if you don't have your goals aligned with each other, you're going to have clashes. You'll have conflicts because one person will feel that he or she is too much investing and the other is not. But the other does not have the goal to go ahead for a longer term, does not want to commit. So what happens? There's a lack of open communication here in India. We do not, we're not okay with the idea of different types of relationships. Talking about the other problem that we do see in terms of relationship is there's a lot of gap in terms of gender biased role. Okay, now at this point we don't see, every gender is being given certain roles, but at this point of time when we are growing, no one has a specific gender roles, right? Even the guy is helping out in the kitchen, even the girl is going out and hustling out together, right? So if your roles are not clearly aligned and not being communicated well, that creates issue. Apart from that, there is another biggest issue that we see is more to do with the differences in sexual drive. We do see that. Now, of course, we've been conditioned a lot more in terms of relationships that sex is more stimulating. It's more, it's a sin. It's a sinful act. Okay, so since it's a sinful act, people do not explore themselves. They don't explore relationships. So what happens? There's a change. There's a difference in libido, of course. It's very natural that comes out. And when the drives are different and not communicated well, that women are told when you talk about sex per se or demand it, you're not accepted well. Okay, you don't come out clean. That's the point.
Makes sense.
Yeah, so women are not supposed to communicate their desires, their drives. So these are some of the barriers that we see in relationships.
And like you said, there's not a lot spoken about sexuality, and most importantly, when it comes to a woman, she's kind of completely driven away from that topic. Think about those people who are going through emotional traumas when they encounter situations with their own husbands or whoever it is.
It's very intimidating.
My God.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I can't even put myself in a place of empathy, man. It's just that scarring. Moving on. Toxic relationships form because of these problems that you just stated.
Yes.
What is the best and the quickest way to get out of a toxic relationship? Like what are the indicators and how do you get out?
Well, when you talk about toxic relationship, the first most important thing is to be aware of it, that you are in one. Unfortunately, I feel really sad for a lot of people out there that they don't know that they are in a toxic relationship. For example, if I've been brought up in a family setting where I've been seeing my parents fight with each other, my father hits my mother, for example, and then I get into a relationship where my guy abuses me verbally. I take this as normal. Then he starts hitting me. I see this is normal because I've seen my parents doing it. I've been conditioned that way, that despite of having an abusive relationship, my parents have been together for 40, 50, 60 plus years. They've been together. They've had all these kids. I think this is normal. So unfortunately, we do not recognize toxic relationships. So recognition is first and foremost. Where you recognize that of course, if something is not making you feel better in shorter term, if any relationship, that the relationship that you're in, if it doesn't help you grow and become a person of value, that's toxic. If it affects you and it doesn't help you live a peaceful and meaningful life, that's toxic.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
This is very important.
How do you get out?
So the moment you get to know, of course, awareness, that you be aware that this is toxic. Second, of course, you start communicating with the partner that this is toxic and start creating boundaries.
Boundaries.
That, okay, if we are communicating about this X point, okay, and if you start getting hyper about it, it's time for us to take a break. So you start creating boundaries like that. And through boundaries, you can get out of toxic relationship. But again, it's two to tango. You have to together make it work. If the other person is not okay with these boundaries, it's time to take a call.
Makes sense. And that person should come from a place of self-awareness. And if that person actually does not, then it's a problem. And I think most of our country belong to that bracket.
But I'll tell you, if both the partners do value that relationship a lot more, they want to be together, then they'll make sure that they are investing equally.
Makes sense.
So you have to make sure that relationship has to be as such where you're investing. Suppose if you are someone who's investing and the other is constantly withdrawing and not investing, at one point you're going to be bankrupt.
Wow, that's a nice statement.
Take it. If you care about financial investment and returns being balanced, then don't you think we should be careful about the emotional investment and emotional returns also to be balanced?
Damn. Yeah, dude, you should. You better be. And remember, as you invest more into it, it starts compounding.
Exactly my point. I was coming to that.
Yeah.
So the moment you both invest, imagine you both are investing in that relationship, giving in your emotions, helping each other grow, understanding and adding value to each other's life, then I think it's just going to compound.
Very, very interesting, man.